Well, welcome to the Board Game Network. This is James. I'm going to be explaining how to play this game called Escape from Colditz. It's put out by Osprey Games, and it's based on the historical Colditz castle that was supposed to be unescapable. It was a German POW camp, and it plays in 1.5 to 2.5 hours. It plays up to 6 players, 2 to 6 players. One of you plays the German security officer, and all of the other players play escape officers and control their POWs. So here's the way you start this game. You've got escape equipment. You're going to sort that. So you're going to have 4 stacks of escape equipment: a rope, a key, a pass, and wire cutters. Wire cutters let you get through the barbed wire. A German pass lets you get through any point that has this icon on it that requires a pass. The key lets you get through any that have a little key symbol on it. And the rope lets you get down any of these that have a number, a 30 or a 60. Each rope is 30 feet long. So you need 1 rope to go down from a 30, or 2 ropes to go down from a 60 to the white space next to it. You are going to shuffle the security cards, and the security officer, or the German officer, whoever's playing the German, draws from this deck. And you're going to shuffle the opportunity cards, and the escape officers or the POW people that are playing the POWs are going to draw from this one. And if you're playing 6 players, you're going to take all the escape kit part cards out of here. There's several of those, like 5 or 6, maybe 6 in there. And so you're going to take all of those out and separate them into a separate deck if there's 6 players only. And then you have personal escape kits. Everybody gets one of those to start the game. And you're just going to put them, if somebody uses them, they're just going to go back in the stack. And this is the setup for a 2-player game. This is the escape officers. They get 8 POWs, and they're set up in exactly that order. And the German security officer gets one officer in the inner court for every player that he's playing against. And then you put 2 to 7 in the outer court to start the game. Any left over you put in the barracks. Now there's a different setup for different numbers of players. For 2 players, you've got 6 security officers total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'd only have 6. For 3 players, you've got 12 security officers. 4 players, 14. 5 players, 15. 6 players, 16. And then the number of escape officers in the middle. This is for 2 players because this is the 1 player plus the security officer. This is the 2-player, or the 3. This is the 3-player setup, and then here's the 4-player setup, the 5-player setup, and the 6-player setup. So you get less POWs the more players there are when you're setting up. And here's the do or die cards. These are just out of the game if you're playing the new rules. These are just in there because the original rules use them. And they're actually like a run for your life scenario that if you don't make it with one of these cards, then you're out of the game. But they've done away with those cards in the new rules. The player to the left of the security officer starts the game, and then you go around. And so the security officer, the German, whoever plays the German, goes last. And so what you do is you roll the 2 dice, You move based on your die roll, and then you pass the dice until the security officer, he goes last, and then the round marker goes down one. Now I've got the round marker on 50, which it suggests for new players. It suggests for experienced players you start at 40, but you really can adjust this to whatever, and you'll notice it gives you a track up to 70. But the higher you set this up, the longer the game goes, and the more chance that the POWs will win the game, or a POW will win the game. Actually, only a single player wins, even though these guys may be working together. Whoever can escape with their second POW is the winner. So on a die roll, if you just add up your total of your die, but if you get doubles, you actually get to roll again, and then you add up the second roll to the first roll, and if you get doubles again, you actually can roll up to 2 re-rolls and total up that die. And then you can split those among your POWs however you want. Each space just costs 1 point. So you can take one guy 10 spaces if you want, or you can take everybody 1 space or whatever. If you roll less than or equal to 5 on your die roll, then you actually get to draw a card. So the escape officers will be drawing from the opportunity deck. The security officer, the German, would be drawing from the security deck. So works exactly the same way. You are limited to drawing 1 card per turn. You are limited to 3 cards in your hand. You can use them anytime except for if there's an interrupt. If it's an interrupt card, then you have to play it at a specific time. And when you use the card, you discard it to the bottom of the deck. So once you've done your roll, then you move the total up to that total in movement points. You cannot move through another pawn on a space. If you do roll doubles, you actually can take somebody out of solitary confinement, somebody who's been arrested, for 1 movement point. And so you'll notice these inner solitary chambers will come out to this space here, and then there's an outer solitary one that comes out here. So if you're arrested in the inner courtyard, you go into one of these. If you're arrested in the outer courtyard or outside the prison, you go in the outer one. And if those are full, then you actually go into the other one, whichever the other one is available. Now the German security officer, he rolls and moves just like the POWs move. He will have some escape officers or some security officers in the barracks. And for 1 movement point, he can go to a guard post. And a guard post is any of these black circles. Here, 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 here. And with 3 players, we should have 2 starting in the inner court because there's 2 opponents. So for 1 movement point, he can go from the barracks to any guard post. From a guard post, he can take 1 movement point and go to the commander's office. And if he's ever in the same space with a POW, he can arrest that POW. And if that's in the inner court, and and he has escape equipment, so he has some of this escape equipment here, then he can be arrested and put in solitary. When that happens, the guard goes to the commander's office, and the POW goes to the solitary confinement. If he's in the outer courtyard, or if he's outside, then the POW has to discard an equipment card. At the end of the German player's turn, all of the officers within the commander's office go over to the barracks. So what happens is, once you go into the commander's office, that guy cannot come back into play for a round, because at the end of the round he comes back over here, and then he can be available to bring back out on one of the stations. If a POW ever moves into a guard, he can be arrested, and that makes the guard go back to the barracks. So it actually could be a strategic play to get a guard out of the way. If the POW ends movement on a guard post, he can be arrested, and then the guard goes back to the commander's office. The way to get equipment cards is, you'll notice these equipment cards match icons on the board, like the wire cutters. Here's a room here, the kitchen, and here's a sick bay. Both of those have wire cutters in them. And to pick up wire cutters, two different POWs have to be either in the same room or in one of each of the rooms that have the same icon to get that piece of equipment simultaneously. And so the same thing with the rope, the key, or the pass. There, you just look around here to see which rooms have those icons on them. And then you get that equipment card, and those two POWs that were used to get the equipment, they come back to the lapel, which is this lighter color area. The way to get escape kits, now remember, you start with an escape kit, so you don't need one, and you're limited to one, but you don't need one until somebody has escaped. And this is actually good for two players if they escape on the same round. If they do not escape on the same round, then the escaping POW takes it, and then anybody who escapes after that has to have another escape kit. So the way to get an escape kit is you have to have one of your POWs in 4 different places at the same time to pull off an escape kit. And you'll notice these icons around here. There's food, and there's a compass, and there's clothing, and then there's maps. Here's right here some maps, and here's some clothing. And remember, the 6th, if you're playing 6 players, then the escape kit part cards are pulled out, and when one POW escapes from a specific player, then he gets to draw an escape kit part, and that escape kit part card fills in for 2 of the 4 items. So he only has to get the other 2 items, and with 6 players you're only starting with 4 pawns. So you only have very few POWs with 6 players. When a POW is escaping, he uses the equipment that it takes to go out, and then he has to discard that card, returns it to the deck. A pass or a key, when you use the pass or the key, the POW has to use those to go out, but a guard does not need those. POWs going in, however, do not need them. If a POW is coming in from solitary or something, they do not need a pass to get in. When you use a rope, you have these escape attempt markers that you place down to show that you're trying to escape from there, and you've got a rope hanging there. And guards can use those also. Guards and other POWs of the same nationality can use them. If you're of a different nationality, a different player, then you cannot use these escape attempt markers. And a guard can enter any room that has an escape attempt marker in it. And the reason for that rule is there are some of these blue circle ones that are hidden. They can't be gone into by the German player. But if there's an escape attempt marker there, then you can go into them. And so I think the only place that would apply is this one right here. where there's that rope, because that escape attempt marker, or that space is blue, but it also has a 30 on it. So that would allow the German to go into that spot. The German player can remove the marker when he moves over it if he wants to, but the German cannot go in reverse. A POW can go in reverse, but he has to use the equipment over again. So even though he put a rope down, if he decides he wants to come back up, it takes him another rope. And wire cutters the same way. And there is actually a tunnel here. You'll notice a darker circle here, a darker circle here. That's the tunnel, the entrance and the exit here. And you always have to have 2 POWs in there at the same time to hold up that tunnel. Otherwise it collapses and anybody who's in it goes back into the appel. And you cannot walk on there and end your turn on top of that tunnel space. Only the people going through the tunnel can be on those spaces. Once a tunnel is open, any POWs can use it, doesn't matter what the nationality is. And the only way for the German to find that tunnel is to get a tunnel discovered card out of the security deck to discover that tunnel, and then he can arrest people in the tunnel. To successfully escape, a POW has to get to one of these targets. You'll notice them around the board. He has to have an escape kit, and if 2 POWs escape on the same turn, they can use the same escape kit. All escape attempt markers may be removed of that color. That is of the German player's choice, if he wants to remove those or not. If there are no more POWs in the area, then any pursuing guards can go back to the commander's office if he wants to. When the round ends, the escape officer plays last, and anybody in the commander's office goes to the barracks. At the end of the round, you move the marker down 1 space, and if you're at the Eagle, if you made it down there, you have 1 last round to go. And to win, you have to get 2 of your POWs out to targets. And for the German to win, he just has to prevent the POWs from escaping, prevent 2 of the same nationality from escaping before time's up. And you can play this as a cooperative game where the POWs work together, and for them to win, they have to escape with more than, greater than, or equal to the number of POWs, the number of escape officers. So the number of POW players, those playing escape officers. So if it's a 3-player game, you have to escape with 2. If it's a 6-player game, you have to escape with 5 POWs. Doesn't matter what the nationality. That would be the minimum, and you could obviously adjust that based on your preference. So that's the way Escape from Colditz works. Based on Colditz Castle, a historical event, historical period, World War II, when the German POW camp. So make sure you tune into all of our videos here at the Board Game Network.